Maybe the most controversial rankings yet, and yet this is still not your podcast for rankings outrage. And the latest on Lane Kiffin, James Franklin has a home, and we'll look ahead to making some picks. This is the College Game Day Podcast. Rece Davis and Pete Thamel here. Pete last night saw a couple of outstanding basketball games. Actually, I guess one pretty good game, and the other one a really good performance by Michigan State. And in between those games, we did the rankings unveil from the floor of Madison Square Garden.
Was McElroy a little out of sorts? Like, what am I doing here? How does this work?
No, he was having a great time.
Yeah, that'd be fun. If you're not used to that.
He enjoyed himself, I think, and Joey did too.
Good.
So I felt like with my two groups that after the halftime of the Michigan State-Kentucky game, the first game, I felt like I was dropping the kids off at my ex's place. Not that I have an ex, but I felt like I was dropping my kids off the ex's place so that they could go, spend some time with them while I brought the football guys in, and then I picked them up again for the second half. And
behave,
they came back
Seth.
home.
Behave while you're gone.
Exactly. Did you hear what Billis said to Seth when Seth was waxing about Madison Square Garden having grown up in New York?
I did not hear that part.
Billis said to him, of course, and I was about to say nice things about everybody. and Billis said, "First time you came to the Garden, Seth, where did you tie up your horse?" So I was like, we are back and in mid-season form. That's that's the whole vibe of my basketball group. That's if you're ever around Jay Billis, that's the whole vibe around Jay Billis most of the time.
That is wheelhouse Jay Billis right there.
It is fastball middle end for sure, or a low block drop step if we want to use the vernacular for him, instead of the sadistic ground acquisition game, as he calls football. But I digress. We did the rankings in the middle. Mm-hmm. There are some difficult decisions to make. Hunter Yurachek was put in a really difficult position, stepping in on the fly for Mack Rhoades, but he's a guy who's been around and understands the process. In all honesty, this might get me in some trouble. I don't think he did himself any favors for a couple of his explanations, both with us and, more to the point, some of the ones later with the other media. But still, a lot of this is going to play itself out.
Yes.
I think, like on ESPN.com, they always do, who should be Madison. I think Alabama was the one that should be Madison. That's probably true. But the fact of the matter is, with them, it doesn't matter. Because you beat Auburn, you're going to be fine. And if you're not, they got a major problem with the way they're evaluating. And if they lose to them, well, it probably doesn't matter. They've probably, for the second straight year, done too many disqualifying things. So, it doesn't really matter. But one thing that I have advocated for the committee, and I would never try to put words in their mouth, if you want to tell me a team is better, say that.
Yeah.
We think in the room that they're better right now. We saw the game with Notre Dame and Miami, and we are honoring the result, but we are not honoring the result to the exclusion of every other criteria we're using to evaluate. And right now, we think they're better.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, and you say it that way, then you can go into some of the explanations. But instead, when it comes across, and I'm not putting this on Hunter, I mean anybody, every chair has done this, and heck, sometimes we do it when we start trying to defend our positions. Yeah. When you try to make it say it's one thing, this was it.
Yep.
They didn't run for enough yards. They lost to two bad teams. Then you bring in the stuff like that, like the Miami fans are upset right now. Like, why are losses more important than wins? So what you need to do is say, we think they're better, if that is indeed what you think, and then use the others to bolster that point and emphasize that it is part of the criteria, not all of it. Not all of it. Yes. And if you don't like that, you just need a formula.
Yeah. Well,
you got to allow them some latitude.
Our Monday partner has a saying in journalism, our friend Dan Wetzel, that applies here. It's better to be generally right than specifically wrong. Right? And Mack Rhoades did a great job of being general while he was the CFP chair, and he's not the CFP chair anymore. But he did a great job of being general, yet didn't feel like he was being evasive. Does that make sense? Like, he gave answers of substance that were not overly detailed, and he did not back himself in a corner with his CFP explanations. And what Hunter did, and what will now, I think, be some blowback from this as the weeks go on and the results get a little more tangled. Every week of results makes it harder to navigate your position. And what he's done, and Ward did this a little bit last year too, Ward Manuel, the Michigan AD, is you end up backing yourself in a corner when you make declarative statements. I know this is counterintuitive for a journalist to say, but he gave too much depth of explanation, and some of that depth of an explanation is going to be asked if things change, if variables change, is going to be pushed back on him. And would you agree with me, Rece? You thought that the Miami explanation versus Notre Dame was probably one where there was just a little bit too much there, and you're like, well, that doesn't make sense because they played each other.
Yeah, he's in a difficult spot,
Yes.
Pete.
Oh, yeah, it's hard.
I mean, the process, and I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but when he said they haven't been evaluated together, I imagine that's true.
Mm-hmm.
It would be incumbent on us to explain. I never like to talk down to our listeners or fans.
Sure.
They understand ball and they study this and they have their judgments about it. But just as a refresher, in case you're not thinking, they don't just go in and list them the way I do my AP Top 25. They talk about them. They have, they put them in groups of 6 first based on who people think the 6 best teams are, just in order. Then within that group of 6, they evaluate and vote with discussion. Then they get the top 3 out of that. Then 3 are carried over. They take 6 more, they add 3 to that mix, and they do it and so on until they get their final ranking. That's why it's not just a poll. So it is not unreasonable, given their process, to think that Notre Dame and Miami just haven't wound up in the same group. So that hasn't hit yet, but it's coming.
Oh, yeah.
If Miami wins and Notre Dame wins, it's coming.
Yeah.
So that's why I counsel, let's wait. Let's not get overly excited about this right now, because they right now are, as a committee, and I'm sure there are some that don't feel this way, but collectively the committee is not impressed with the way Miami played in those 2 losses and think that is beneath a playoff team.
Yeah.
Right? That's what they're saying, is that those performances, and people say, why do losses count more than win? I understand the outrage about it. But what they're saying is that the overall performance, all of the games, when you include those 2, that is not something that looks like a playoff team in their judgment. Now, you get to 10-2, and you look back on them, and still those are 2 bad losses, but now maybe you're grouped a little closer. And now maybe head-to-head does carry a little more weight than it did. So I think all of those things are still to be determined.
Yes.
And I think the same would apply right now. They didn't like what Alabama did against Oklahoma, but if you had and this is not intel, this is judgment and experience from watching them. You know how I say sometimes in the AP poll that they make us list them in columns, but I wish they would let us do rows, because they're all kind of the same, or clusters, whatever you want to call it. That's where I think you are.
Yeah.
With Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Oregon, Alabama, all of those teams right there. So a lot of it will take care of itself. If Oregon loses Saturday at SC, they've got a problem.
Oh, yeah.
It's not because they aren't good. They've got a resume problem.
Correct.
They don't have a football judgment problem. They've got a resume problem. Who did you
Iowa,
play?
Northwestern are their 2 best.
Not much.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, they played
and they played
a lot of the. Yeah, their opponent's record in Big Ten play, Pete, is better than the teams at the top, but they haven't played the elite teams. They played all the teams that are right around 500 or a game or so over. So it's not that they've played bad teams. It's just they don't have that real bullet point on the resume. And they'll have the head-to-head problem with SC. Already have the head-to-head problem with Indiana. They're going to have, an overall quality win problem against Alabama. They're going to have a finishing strong problem against Notre Dame. I'm not saying they'll be out. I'm just saying that they're going to be in the bubble mix if they don't win Saturday. And if they win Saturday, then probably the football judgment piece of it really carries them, because they're good.
Sure.
There's a really good team.
They're talented.
Yeah. So it's something.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Do you think there's any world where on the cut line Notre Dame gets in over Miami if they have the same record?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm not saying that I agree with
Yeah.
it, but I think a lot of this will be how they play. How do they look against Pittsburgh?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
especially, and assuming how they look against Virginia Tech.
That'd be an
How do they
interesting
look
comp.
against Pitt?
Like
Yeah.
2 games at Pitt by the same teams being compared in the same month of the year, right? Like
right. Yeah, exactly. If they have to kick field goal to win it at the end, I think there's probably a world.
Yeah.
If they go up and blitz them,
like Notre Dame did. Give
I
Notre
know
Dame
they're
credit.
I know they're
Notre Dame with everything on the line and no big games left. They went there and made a statement.
Mm-hmm.
Right down to the post-game handshake.
I think there's another common opponent too, NC State, I think too. So, and Miami took care of them. So I know it's not the only one. And again, see, this is where the chairs get in trouble, because the aggregators will be saying, Rece Davis says it all comes down to how they play against Pitt. I don't mean that. I'm saying that's a part of the picture.
Data point.
That it's a point that will be evaluated. So that would be, given what it seems like they believe about the two teams at the moment, Pete, when you ask me if there is a world, I would say yes. They already think Notre Dame's better and just happen to lose the game.
Yep.
That happens in sports all the time. It's called upsets. Yep. It's like one of the craziest things to me is like we say you have to honor head-to-head. Okay. Do you only honor head-to-head when the number of losses are exactly the same? Because that's what people say. Yeah. Nobody's sitting here saying Alabama should be ranked ahead of Georgia.
Yeah. No, that's
why? Nobody's
fair.
saying that.
Very fair.
And it's even true in the American. You've got the whole circle in the American where USF clobbered North Texas, who beat Navy, who beat USF. And so it's a circular thing. So you have to evaluate who's better. But I think that would probably be the tipping point. If Miami does not look good in these two games and doesn't look like the playoff team, add it to those two other performances where the committee believes that. I'm not saying I would agree with it because, frankly, Pete, if they go 10-2 and they won the game, right now I have Notre Dame ranked ahead of them. I think they're better. I think they're better.
Yes.
But you get down to the end and they're at the close. I don't think they're appreciably better.
Yeah.
I'd probably have a hard time with it. With the head.
Common sense wise, boy, that would be tough. Yeah, that would be tough.
But it wouldn't be new.
No.
Remember when Miami got left out of the national championship game way back in the old BCS era after they'd beaten Florida State?
Yes.
I mean, it's happened before. It's not a new thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure Miami fans are thinking about that right now, actually.
No, poor Miami. They keep winding up on the wrong end of this. Yeah.
I don't get too convicted about hypotheticals. But if it's those two for the last spot and 1-1 head-to-head, I know who I'm picking, right? Like, it just, and again, you have to factor in everything. The committee does not have an easy job, so I respect them, and they watch ball, and they know ball. But boy, like, that would take some mental gymnastics to get there, in my opinion.
Maybe, but the way I think of it is head-to-head is really important. That's why you play the games. I get that, but it can't be everything.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because if it is, then what is not everything? And then why do you dismiss the other things?
Yeah.
Why do you dismiss the bad losses? Why do you dismiss another team that might have lost a head-to-head game, but yet stacked up a lot of good wins? Yeah. It has to be part of the picture. It has to be huge, and I do think it's reasonable to say it should carry the day if you view the teams as basically equal, no matter when the game was played, because you're already giving Notre Dame the data point of you think they're a better team. If I'm in that room, I think Notre Dame's better than Miami. I just do. Now
you've liked Notre Dame all year.
The game. They lost the game. So now if you get close, that's the data point in Notre Dame's favor. But I kind of think like you, Pete, if they look the part in the last two games and they have the same record and they won, I think they're close enough that I'd probably say, got to stack Miami back on top. And before Miami fans get all upset and say that I'm not behind them, remember I had you guys number one. One ahead of Ohio State and Indiana until you did these things that made you not look like a playoff team.
Yeah.
So,
the fact that Miami's pretty talented, I think, helps them too. You know what I mean? Like I agree. They have some. They're not like a scrappy underdog trying to fight their way. And not that Notre Dame isn't talented. So the Alabama potential conundrum, Rece, if they go to the SEC title game, beat Auburn, do you think no matter what happens, I mean, as long as they don't lose 62-0 and, whatever, like
Right.
barring
Yeah.
any catastrophic injury, whatever, just like
Yeah.
you go and you lose. Do you think that that third loss would drop them out? Should that drop them if they're going to go play in that game? Because boy, are these
No.
conference title games just starting to get in the way, right? Like there's really,
Yeah, they are.
they're just getting in the
Yeah.
way. And they'll
I
realize
don't
that
think
as a
it should.
sport at some point. And I wonder if somebody even like pulls their start. You know what I mean? Those things are, at least conversationally, I would say that's at least like it has to cross these guys' minds, right? These coaches' minds, Rece. Like,
Yeah.
Jeremiah Smith's banged up. Do we play him against Indiana or do we save him? Like, and I'm using that as a hypothetical. Same thing with, do we run Gunnar Stockton as much as we would have, in the regular season? I mean, look, like it wasn't that big. Nobody made a particularly big deal of this. I think maybe it was Drinkwitz, pointed this out at one of the media days. But like Georgia's national title hopes were lost in the SEC title game last year when their quarterback got hurt. It's pretty simple, right? Like, and that game doesn't end up meaning a whole lot in the picture of through the prism of how the sport is now judged.
I think if you believe that the SEC is the toughest conference in the country, and even if you are a Big Ten believer, at worst you have to think it's the second toughest conference. At worst, I think overall, I think the Big Ten probably has two elite teams that are better, but the rest there's more playoff level depth.
1 to 8, I don't think it's much of a debate. 1 to 4, that's a great debate.
Absolutely.
Great debate.
So but if you believe that, and Alabama played the toughest, I believe, among those teams, them or Georgia, played the toughest SEC schedule, and they got to the championship game out of that schedule. I think it would be pretty egregious to leave them out, absent if they make the SEC championship game, absent what you described, an Ohio State over Wisconsin level beatdown from 2014. Something like that changes the calculus. But just a normal game in which you didn't beat a superb team, and presumably Texas A&M if they beat Texas, just a normal game in which you didn't beat a superb team, I have a hard time saying that you could be the 8th, 9th, 10th, whatever they'll be ranked that week, best team. And then, no, sorry, you lost to A&M and you're going to fall below the cut line. That'd be a tough one for me.
Hypothetical. Is there a world where the Big Ten only gets 2 teams? Want to be clear, don't think they deserve that. Like the Big Ten's had a great year. It's a great conference. But there's a world where that happens, right? That's not off the table.
I agree. And and this sort of underscores, Pete, because that's why I don't think there should be, a specified number of bids. You have to evaluate the teams, not the where you evaluate the conference in which they play is the strength of their schedule overall, all 12 games. I think that's the prudent and best way to do it. The scenario that you describe is this, and it all hinges really Saturday. SC beating Oregon, and then SC not making it to the Big Ten championship game, things going as scripted, it being Ohio State and Indiana. Then SC has a Notre Dame head-to-head problem, which has a Miami head-to-head problem, which has, if you're going with all these other ones, which has an Alabama overall resume problem, which has a head-to-head problem with Oklahoma. So I think that would probably be the scenario that you describe, and there could be other things to open a spot. But I think that would be the scenario that you would describe where Oregon falls out of the mix and probably is flirting with that cut line. Because I think Oregon lost to SC on Saturday, drops them behind most of, not all, but drops them below the other 2 lost teams who are in the field at the moment.
Let's not forget, Washington doesn't lose at home a lot. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that's
a good point.
I don't believe Jed lost at home last year. And
they lost to Ohio State this year. But everybody, that shouldn't even count because Ohio State's like in its own league.
Yeah, but that's like I'm saying is like there are no easy trips to Husky Stadium. That's a big time rivalry. That's one of my favorite memories of being at ESPN is the game you and I watched, the Washington-Oregon game in Seattle. I mean, that was a big-time game, big-time players, fourth down decisions, like, trick play. That was a classic. That was a classic regular season game among them all. And that's like an old European soccer stadium. It kind of has that overhang. It's loud. It's on the lake. It's there. So, like, and look, Washington's, when healthy, very good. They have very good high-end players. They've been banged up on the O-line. Coleman's been hurt. Boston's been hurt. Like they've had some struggles, but if they can field a healthy team for the final week, like there's something to be said for their fortitude at home. And Oregon is talented, but they're very young. Like, and that they have the capability to step on a rake, some self-induced mistakes. We saw Indiana exploit that. So anyway, it's gonna be an exciting finish, Rece.
It's gonna be great. And to your point about the diminishing importance of conference championship games, and as the old people in the South used to say, I will use a Southern expression for you. Ole Miss hasn't won anything since they dug the river. That means a really long time ago for you New Englanders, Pete. Ole Miss hasn't
canals
won
here, maybe not rivers.
Yeah, Ole Miss hasn't won squat.
Yeah.
So I know they would love to. They've never been in the SEC championship game. They'd love to go.
Yeah.
But with everything being fixated on the playoff, aside from the coaching drama, nobody's in better shape than Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Hey, they beat Mississippi State. They're going to probably finish in a tie for second, which they're probably not going to come out of with a tiebreaker. Yeah. So that just means they're going to get a home game in Oxford.
Yeah.
I mean, and a lot of people would prefer that.
Well, if you're sitting there at 5, we've always said that's the best spot to be in the playoff. Home game, G5 team, great moment for your fans, make a couple $1 million, and get some momentum to go, Ohio State was who was the 5 last year? It was Penn State, right? They had Boise.
No, 5 was Texas last year.
Sorry,
Texas, because Clemson got in as 12.
Yeah.
So the 6 spot was the good spot last year.
Yes,
it was. That's where Penn State fell.
Yeah,
and 6-11. Then they played Boise State. No disrespect, but I mean you liked your chances.
Sure. No, you're going to like your chances
to open SMU, Boise State, and then.
One thing I thought that got underplayed last night was the committee almost appeared to make a decision that said the American champion's going to get in our playoff, like that. That was. I didn't think that was subtle yesterday, and I think if they had put James Madison in, they were going to kind of have to be in, right? So, and whoever does win the American is going to get another quality win better than James Madison can get. So, to me, that was a little signal flare that the Dukes need some severe chaos to move up past. Has any result loomed larger than that USF Boise result this year? Just in terms of like factoring and thinking,
I mean, it set the table.
No.
It set the table for the American, and then USF sort of messed themselves up when they had the opportunity to step in and really take advantage of it. So if Ole Miss is sitting there with a playoff game, what's the latest? Who coaches them?
That is a great question, Rece Davis. That is a great question, and I have spent a lot of time on that this week, and I can say with absolute certainty I have no idea. There is one clean solution to the Lane Kiffin saga. The only clean and easy solution is he signs a very lucrative deal, this week or early next week to stay at Ole Miss. Other than that, it is going to be ugly reputationally. It's going to be ugly internally. I've heard the players are already a little bit like, is this real? Like we're 10-1 right now. We're really doing this. Like the human element showed up in this in a huge way after the Florida game, and that hasn't gone away. The one thing that I maybe underestimated that I've heard a lot about the last 48 hours is just how irate the fan base is. And I'm not getting that like direct here, sitting in Boston, but you talk to people down there and the Ole Miss fans are apoplectic. And you've mentioned the Ole Miss LSU rivalry a few times here on the podcast, how nasty that rivalry is, right? Like that's like they are, the fact that they're at this once in a half century moment and it's in peril right now, or it's in flux right now because of whatever decision Lane Kiffin's going to make. I underestimated just how unforgiving the fans are going to be. So, you want to walk through this?
Wetzel wrote a great column on that.
Yeah, yes, that's
that whole deal.
It's going to be hard for Lane Kiffin to walk away. I said a few weeks ago I'd be surprised if he doesn't leave. and that got aggregated everywhere, of course, because look, the opportunities would, in a vacuum, that's an easy thing to say. But there is a lot of human emotion that has come in here. There's a lot of pride, institutional pride, president's office at Ole Miss, athletic department at Ole Miss, and obviously, Kiffin, and he's clearly tortured. My mom has the old saying, like, he wants his cake and eat it too. Is that yes. He, it seems pretty clear. Actions would dictate, like if you just look at actions in this, would dictate that he wants to coach the rest of the season, coach in the playoff, and also maybe, explore one of these very good jobs that are that are open. And so the reality is, to do everything would be very difficult, very contentious, and quite messy when it comes down to it. So is it at a either or yet? I don't know. Like, there, people would want you to think that. There's also like contract stuff. Like, it would really have to get messy. And I would think both sides are smart enough to not let it get that messy. But yeah, that's what should be this. It's a one wild only in the SEC scenario, right? You have 3 schools hanging on the whims of one coach.
Yeah.
It's clear that there's no like definitive decision of which lane, no pun intended, he wants to take, right? So, swinging in the wind, you got like a must-see Pat McAfee interview, where he briefly addresses the matters at hand, and then you could tell from that interview, Rece, that Lane Kiffin wanted to combat some of the negativity from the fan base, right? Like, we all want to be loved, and it has to be a surreal moment in time to bring a school to generational heights and feel an avalanche of negativity, right?
Yeah. I'm going to double down on what I said earlier this week.
Okay.
Ole Miss, you haven't won anything. Let him coach. Just let him coach the team. Whether he leaves, whether he doesn't leave, don't impose these artificial deadlines. What in the world? Who cares? You really have to have, and maybe they didn't. I know he told Pat, that it was not true that he'd been issued an ultimatum.
And I think that's accurate.
Parsing words, maybe
yes.
we're parsing words or, semantics. Or
they want
whatever.
a decision, though. Like,
I understand.
They don't want to be, there's not been an ultimatum, like, gun to his head, but there is pressure for a decision. I think that's very clear.
Yeah, I understand that, and I don't blame Ole Miss for that, and they should apply their leverage just as Lane Kiffin is using his to make his own decision. I do think that, because I think that's best for the players, assuming he's all in. And if he's all in, coach the team, try to win a championship, see what happens, let the chips fall after that. It might put you in better stead at the end. He might even have a more difficult time leaving if you win a championship. But there's a little piece of this to me that makes me wonder, is this like with the pressure of Willie won't he and the little bit of trolling and a little saying this, try to, maybe give the fan base some hope, and then, the reports of his people in his circle, his family, looking at the other places, which they all have a right to do. That's
fairly common,
including
people do that,
right,
yeah.
but they got caught.
Yes.
So don't pretend like now you get to say, well, we can't talk about this. It's disrespectful to the players.
Yes.
You chose to do this, so you've got to answer for it. That's okay. All of this is okay. There's maybe all of this is fair game, because it's a business. He has to make a business decision. The players are going to, whether he stays or goes, are going to make a business decision about whether they are continuing their careers and studies at Ole Miss or elsewhere. That is where we are in college football. But you can't hide behind, you can't ask about it because it's disrespectful or disruptive to the players. You caused the disruption. You started it. Yeah. And then the other thing, there's a little bit of, remember when you were in high school and you felt like maybe the time had come to part ways with someone you're dating, and sometimes the easiest thing, boy, if she just break up with me, that'd be way easier, And are we pushing to that? Maybe. Yeah. It feels like that sometimes. Yeah. I don't know. But whatever he does, I wish him well, wish him success. Sure. He's tremendous content. He's a tremendous coach. He's done wonders at Ole Miss. But, when you, all of this is not his doing. A lot of it is the calendar. Mm-hmm. But when you make the choice that you're going to entertain opportunities, which you have every right in the world to do.
Mm-hmm.
You also entertain the blowback.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Do you think this trickles to the field on Friday night in
Yes.
Starkville against a very good team? Like Mississippi State is much better than they were last year. Their record isn't great. They have, especially there, they played Texas to the brink. They played Tennessee to the brink. They are refortified on both lines. You know, they're a pretty good football team, Rece Davis.
I think you might have seen just a hint of it, even against Florida. I mean, it took a little while to get going there. Now they got a bad call.
Yeah. Florida's a good roster. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
they do. Yeah, it's like sort of like a Penn State situation.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's
maybe not a good team, good roster. So you're gonna be in for some battles here and there.
Yeah.
I'm not predicting a loss yet, but
weird things happen in that Egg Bowl.
Wouldn't be surprised.
You've called a few of those.
Oh yeah,
weird things happen in that Egg Bowl.
Fumble through the end zone. Dak come out with seemingly unable to
Willis
throw
Reed
and save the Bulldogs late. Yeah, I called that game. There's a lot of stuff. I once saw a guy. I was not calling the game, but I once saw a guy go into the end zone, hike his leg, and basically cost his team a game and his coach a job. I
recall that. I think both coaches got fired.
Yeah. So
didn't both coaches get fired?
Was that
Joe Moorhead
Luke
and Luke
against Moorhead? Yeah.
Yep, they
so
both,
probably so. Yeah.
Yeah. Joe Moorhead picked up win 5 at Akron yesterday. If you're watching on your Wednesday night, Tuesday night. It's Wednesday today. Sorry.
So
days are long.
Yes, they are. And Joe's a good coach.
He's a good football coach.
Did a great job.
That guy's moved the ball.
At
Fordham,
Penn State.
UConn, Penn State. He's moved the ball. So,
what do you think the vibe is going to be for Virginia Tech? They've hired James Franklin. Now they're about to play Miami. Are we going to have a boost from the guys trying to impress the new guy wherever he's watching? Or is it going to be, holy cow, I got to figure out what I'm doing next, and it's going to get scattered? What kind of effort do you expect from the Hokies?
I thought you were going to predict Joe Moorhead would be the new OC.
Well, you know what? That's not crazy.
Nope, sure isn't. It'll be interesting, right? Because you're auditioning, and for as much as we're like, oh, he just transfers, like, don't underestimate the human element of this. People live there, they have friends, they have girlfriends, majors, like all that stuff. So, and I'm sure in kind of what's been a lost season, they start 0-3, they get blown out by Old Dominion. They're looking for some hope, right? And I will say this, I give Virginia Tech fans a ton of credit, Rece. They have shown up. Like, this has been thin, thick and thin. This is thin. Thin has gotten thinner. Thin has been anorexic, and they have still shown up. So this is if you have Virginia Tech season tickets, this is your marquee game, right? This is the one you have circled on the calendar. This is the one you're rolling to. So it will be interesting to see if they show a fighting spirit. And look, Miami's been known to step on a rake on the road, right? We've seen it. We've seen it happen. The way that they play under Philip Montgomery is a little feast or famine, right? You get behind, you're kind of toast. You get ahead, it's hard to catch it. You know what I mean? So there will be aggression, right? Like, they will come out and do everything they can to go over the top, to use some tempo to take those defensive ends out of the game. So it is hard for me to predict that they're going to win, but could they be feisty? Absolutely.
So basically, what you're saying is you're taking the points if you were playing games of chance.
I don't play games of chance because there's chance involved, Rece.
Yeah. You're more of a risk-free investing kind of guy. Just go with the bonds.
Yeah.
Right.
Just stock that 401k.
Yeah, with the safest investments around.
Keep it in the fairway. Yeah, I actually can't gamble. Do you know that? I can't bet. Yeah, just ethics reasons.
Because of your job.
Yeah, when I had to take a pledge with my hand on the Boy Scout Bible. So I've never been a better. I've never been a better anyway. Have I filled out an NCAA tournament pool over there? Sure, but I've never been.
That's not really. That's not really gambling.
Yeah, I've never been a gambler. Now I don't even do that. I want to be clear. I can't. So yeah. But
just because of the journalistic.
Yeah, there's a conflict of interest. So and I totally understand it. Not complaining about it. It's
I don't gamble.
Yeah,
either.
it's an interesting.
And I don't.
Yeah. No, I believe it, Rece. You drink whole milk and watch Perry Mason. I don't think on the side you're I
don't know. I hope this doesn't get me in trouble. It was a long, long time ago. I'm not going to say the game so it doesn't get me in total trouble. But there was one of those random things where, everybody puts in $5 or whatever.
Sure.
And one of those things where you just draw stuff. You're not picking anything. You're handed.
Yeah. Super Bowl squares, right? Or whatever.
Stuff like that. So I won, and rather than the guy says, who was a gambler who was supposed to, not a professional one, but a guy who enjoys games of chance.
Everyone in the group has the guy who does the squares in the tournament pool. Everybody needs that friend.
And he enjoyed more orchestrated games of chance, within the books. So I said, I tell you what. I said, you place a bet I've never done. I said, just take whatever I was supposed to get since you didn't have the money on you. Just put it on that. And if I get that, you give me that. And if not, I lost it. And of course I lost it. So I didn't do it. I wouldn't, I don't know.
There's a reason why all those lights are so bright there.
Exactly. And the other night when I was bemoaning the fate of my super dog, Pete texted me and said, "I'm really glad you don't gamble."
Yes. Yeah. By the way, I had no idea what was going on in Utah State, like zero. And I like to say, I think I pay attention, 1 to 134. Yeah. You were like, this Utah State kicker. And I was like, dude, like, if you're watching that right now, like,
he was killing me. I felt badly for him. I can't remember if I told the story on the pod Monday. It's okay. I'll tell it again. He apparently hadn't missed a kick all year of any kind.
I don't think you told this story. Yeah.
Okay. He hadn't missed a kick all. And this is why, kids, that your hard-earned money, put it in a 401k like Pete, and don't put it at the
buy Apple stock. It's going to go up.
Whims of chance.
It's going to go up.
The whims of chance of sport. Because this kicker, who's a fine kicker, hadn't missed a single kick all season, not one. Mm-hmm. And he had already missed an extra point and a field goal. Yet, opportunity for redemption and tie game at the end. Last play of the game, well within his range. Miss, no good. Okay, things happen. No problem. Vegas misses a field goal. He gets another opportunity to win the game. Yeah, no, it's not happening. Missed again. And both of them relatively short field goals.
Did Bronco's face change expression?
A little bit,
okay.
Not much.
Interesting.
No,
Yeah, no, he's
much.
Pretty stone-faced. Yeah,
not much.
That's a compliment. He's a
So now we're, I think. Oh, and then in double overtime, then they got it first, and he kicked the field goal, made that one, but then Vegas scored a touchdown and won. So got the 5 points on the super dog, but not the big one that I needed to catch Herbstreit. So now we're going to be
How far behind are you?
Launching Hail Mary a lot.
Oh, okay.
I think Nick won. I might be a point or two behind.
Nick's
him,
on a heater.
I'm in third, but yeah. Well, because Christine Taylor, he's got a muse.
Yeah.
Now who's our great
Christine's
producer,
good.
Associate
She's
producer.
good.
Yeah, she's locked in.
Yeah.
She was the one when I said to her when I picked Hawaii and went out right the week before. I said, "Yeah, I'm taking Hawaii." She goes, "Oh, I like that one." I'm like, "Okay,
yeah,
I feel better about
that."
That
was
now.
like 20 points, right? That was a San Diego State.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was just
Teams?
6.5.
It was only 6.5.
So
okay.
I got 11 or 12 points,
right.
something
That's
like
not
that.
bad.
It's pretty not bad. Let's make some picks right now.
Let's do
Start
it.
with our six pack of picks game where we will be 3:30 Eastern time, USC and Oregon. Who do you like, Pete?
So it's interesting, Rece. This would be Lincoln Riley's biggest win by ranked opponent in his USC tenure. He's beaten LSU ranked in the top 15, Notre Dame ranked in the top 15. Michigan was in that neighborhood when they played him this year. I'm not sure if they're quite, but anyway, he's had some good wins. But this would be his biggest with Oregon at 7, and it would sort of push USC back to where they expected to be under Lincoln Riley, right? Which is in the thicket of the playoff race. I don't think this would put him in the field. You'd probably have a better feel on that, but I think it would put him on the cusp of the field. Is that fair?
They'd be in the fight. They would have an opportunity,
yes.
Pete, to get in the Big Ten championship game if they could get some help from Michigan.
Sure, and that would obviously be put them in a better position to win. But anyway, these are the games why these are the moments that USC hired Lincoln Riley for, right? To play high stakes games with College Game Day there, big audience, hostile venue, the whole thing, and I give this USC program a lot of credit, Rece. They have grown and evolved to where that when their mettle has been tested in the Big Ten this year, the Iowa game comes to mind. They have responded. Michigan, I mean, they beat Michigan's pants off, right? I mean, it was significant. So I give USC a lot of credit for its evolution because it simply wasn't that way when they initially entered the Big Ten. So they stumbled late at Illinois. Notre Dame handled them pretty easily. But you look at Nebraska this year, look at Iowa this year. They have proven they can kind of go toe to toe in the trenches with the Big Ten. That said, I just think Oregon's more talented, man. I just think they're better. There'll be good quarterback play there. Oregon has better quarterback play. Oregon, holistic skill. I mean, no one's Mekhi Lemon, right? But like holistic skill, I think a depth of skill, tight ends, etc. I think Oregon is just a little bit higher class. So I'm going to take the Ducks, but I think this will be a very good, close game and kind of fun, right? Like it's fun to have USC back playing big games like this.
I'm so tempted.
Oh, really?
I'm so tempted to pick SC.
Do it.
Well, that's just because I've got a pretty good lead on you in these picks right now.
I'm terrible.
In the race for the ribeye.
Thank God Teddy wouldn't be going to college if we were relying on my picks. So,
but I agree with what you said. I think Oregon overall is better. A little more talent, probably more disruptors on defense, more likely to make a game-changing play on defense, I think. And ultimately, I feel like this game's going to go one of two ways. Either SC is going to have the ball and have a chance to win with a final drive. Whether they do it or not remains to be seen. Or Oregon's going to stomp them. I don't know. I'm gonna go Oregon, but I will probably be kicking myself if this game is tight because I like SC. I think SC is improving. They've been scrappy and gutty, all the things you mentioned. I'll take Oregon, but I don't think it's crazy if people take SC, and I might even change my mind by Saturday morning. Who knows?
Interesting.
Missouri and Oklahoma. Sooners are going to have to come back to earth after the game. They also need to get their offense going, sort of masked in the fact that they made every clutch play against Alabama. They had 200 yards of offense. Yeah. And Mateer, while a great leader and a fun guy to watch play, really since the thumb injury, he's rushed for a touchdown in the last couple of games, but he's got 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. They haven't thrown for very many yards. Missouri can really run it. Both these teams are disruptive and tackles for loss. Remember last year, Zion Young returned a fumble for a touchdown in the waning seconds. I think like 20 seconds left, and Missouri won the game. They haven't won in Norman since 1966, back when they were both in the Big 8 before the Big 12. You like OU in this game or Mizzou?
I would point out to our listeners who do take games of chance that the status of Bo Prabula is something that will be updated as the week wears on here, which would factor into perhaps how you would pick this game one way or another. With him, Missouri certainly, with him healthy, moving, running, etc., Missouri would have a better chance against Oklahoma. I feel like Missouri's defense is uniquely equipped with their power at defensive ends and at linebacker to really handle John Mateer. That said, I can't pull the trigger on a Missouri upset here. I don't think of Brent Venables' defense is going to let Ahmad Hardy run for 300 yards. Isn't that what he had against Mississippi State?
Yeah, close to it. They ran as
it was over 300.
I mean, they completed 8 passes and still ran
I just think you need more
them.
balance, and I think it'll be hard. So I will take the Sooners in a close one.
Me too. Taking the Sooners in a close game. Hardy leads the nation in rushing. You're going to have to be able to make some plays in the passing game against him. However, if you can run it, that's probably the best way to neutralize the pressure and the blitzes that Oklahoma will send at your passer in terms of creating negative plays. If you can, block those in the run game, you've probably got a good shot. But especially even if Prabula comes back, hasn't played. And we saw how difficult that was for Mateer coming back in a game against Texas when he hadn't played. So I'll take OU in that game as well.
He's been good this year, Rece, but he's not been an all-SEC quarterback. Prabula. He's been fine, but he's not been dominant.
Yeah. The ACC confirming that Georgia Tech goes to the ACC championship game if they win Saturday night on the Flats on ESPN against Pittsburgh. What do you got?
Yeah, boy, recency bias would make it tough to pick Pittsburgh after what we saw on Saturday in the Steel City. Desmond Reed left that Notre Dame game limping. He's been in and out all year. I feel like without him, Pitt is just is a little bit. It's a little bit tough. And look, Mason Heinzel's been a great story. I've hyped him up. Like, we've talked about him a lot. Like, when the class of defense stepped up, he turtled a little bit. Look, he's a freshman. He's very good. He's got a long way to go. So that's the one I was saying. I feel like this is a low-scoring, hard-hitting game, sort of two similar program ethoses. I think Tech squeaks it out.
I'm taking Pitt.
Oh, really?
I think Georgia Tech, I know they got clipped, and they probably should have again on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I think Georgia Tech Pittsburgh can create enough Georgia Tech mistakes to pull the upset and spin the ACC wheel of destiny just a little bit farther.
It would be very ACC for Pitt to win this game.
Yeah, and set up Miami and Pittsburgh next week, and then figuring out the combinations and permutations there. And meanwhile, Virginia just quietly keeps finding ways to win and might win their way right into the playoffs.
Yeah. And their league loss came with their quarterback concussed, who clearly makes a difference, and that becomes a conversation point in all this. So.
For sure. Tennessee and Florida in the swamp. Gators sort of playing out the string, waiting on Lane Kiffin. Tennessee's lost most of its big games. This game, Vanderbilt game, is really going to determine, good season, bad season for Tennessee.
Yeah,
good season or disappointing season for Tennessee.
Sure. I think you got to take Tennessee rolling here in the swamp. Florida has shown a little mettle since Billy Napier's firing. They're certainly still talented, but it is hard. It's just hard to pick them at this point because they just keep losing.
Yeah, I feel the same way, Pete. Now, would it shock me beyond words if they show up and play a great game? Because as we talked about, they've got talent. They gave Ole Miss a really good fight.
Played well,
but then they also sort of played as you might expect against Kentucky. I think Tennessee rolls in this game and sets up a pretty significant game with Vanderbilt for positioning and bragging rights, and Vanderbilt's outside playoff hope, still hoping that they aren't overlooked and they can get in the at-large pool and evaluated there. I'll take Tennessee to win that game on the road, though. Rare swamp win for them. BYU and Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati hurt itself with a loss to Arizona, which was a really entertaining game. BYU can win its way if they win out their last two games. They'll play in the Big 12 championship game, but a road game, Nippert Stadium. Who do you like? You like the Cougars or the Bearcats?
I am going to go with Ole 4-7. Those following games of chance would want to note whether or not Evan Pryor is going to return for Cincinnati this week. That seemed to be trending that way when I was tracking that this week. We'll have more to update on Mr. Pryor's status. He's obviously Ohio State transfer, Cincinnati's leading rusher. But I give BYU a lot of credit. They bounced back from that loss and were dominant last week. And I just think
they look good.
Yeah, I just think they're and TCU did not look good, by the way. I think they are a little bit higher class than Cincinnati right now. Great, fun quarterback matchup, right? Sorsby and Bachmeier. Two good ones, and Nippert will be electric, so it should be a fun one.
I'm going to go with BYU too. I think they're better. I don't think they'll miss the opportunity to get the rematch with Texas Tech, and I suspect that the same thing will happen that happened in the first meeting between BYU and Texas Tech. But that's why they play the games. We'll find out. I think they're a tough-minded team. They'll probably be even better next year, and Bachmeier gets another year under his belt at quarterback. But I think he's got enough, and they've got enough as a team to go in and squeak one out past Cincinnati. Pete, you mentioned earlier that USF's win over Boise sort of set the pecking order among the group of 5 conferences in terms of who's likely to get the bid for the playoff among the 5 highest-ranked conference champions. But been some good ball in the Mountain West.
Sure.
One of the surprise teams of the season has been Hawai'i. UNLV just continues to find ways to win, pull games out. Dan Mullen 8-2 there against a Hawai'i team, and Timmy Chang, who's 7-3. Both teams 4-2 in Mountain West play. Who wins the game? That's a late one Friday night, so we're going to allow that to be the deep cut.
Yeah, we could take a late game and roll in. Yeah, I'm going to have to go with our friends the Rebels. Calandria's come in and been one of the better quarterbacks in college football this year. The Virginia transfer who is piloting Dan Mullen and Corey Dennis's office at UNLV. Hawaii, I do feel like when you're picking is pick Hawaii at home, pick against them on the road. It should be a good game. Give Timmy Chang a lot of credit. It was a career-altering season that he has authored so far this year in terms of getting him on the right trajectory. So, but I think the Rebels have a little too much metal.
That's a good rule of thumb. Just briefly to tell you, at Arizona, Hawaii loses 40-6. At Air Force, they won. Air Force has struggled a bit this year.
Mm-hmm.
They won at Colorado State. Colorado State has really struggled. But they've lost at San Jose State also. They lost at Fresno by 2. So why in the world am I picking Hawaii? Well, you're loyal to people who are loyal to you, Pete. And they helped me out a couple of weeks ago. So you know what? And Vegas, you know what? I love Dan Mullen. He's a wonderful guy and a wonderful coach. I'm sorry I picked against you last week on the Superdog, and I'm sorry I'm picking against you now. But I gotta give Pete a chance to come back a little bit here. So I'll go opposite, and I'll take Hawaii. Young quarterback's good. Malahado's good player.
You're loyal to Timmy Chang
player. From
all those nights in the studio where you're waiting for his games to
many
end.
late nights waiting on Timmy to break the all-time passing record and stuff. That's good.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right.
We will see you on College Game Day Saturday morning. Thanks for listening to the College Game Day podcast. Subscribe and never miss an episode, or at the very least, you can download where you prefer to get your podcast.